I actually want to move us on to the next segment, which is a crazy thing. Brad knows all about this because I didn't look
Corner.
too closely. It's our Builder's Corner.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about ASUS's Avalon, which is some kind of weird proprietary mini case thing.
Yeah, so this was actually cool enough that I had Memorial Day off, and I woke up and read this and said, man, this is cool. I'm actually going to take off my holiday and write about this. It's a concept PC at this point, but what they're doing is more tightly integrating motherboard design with case design to make it look basically like their concept looks like a hi-fi stereo system.
Right.
And the whole idea is to make it, one, sleeker, more elegant looking, two, enable some new functionality because you're more tightly integrating motherboard design with the case and everything, as opposed to just having everything be, hey, here's this case, here's the motherboard, here's all the traditional stuff.
So it's modular, right? Like I was reading your article and it's basically Razer's Project Christine concept from 2-ish years ago, except with Asus being an actual OEM and creating parts.
Aside from the motherboard and the case itself, which obviously need tight integration to hit what they're looking at. Everything else, I mean, their whole thing is this is still the open PC. You can still swap out your processor. You can still swap out your graphics card. You can still swap in, storage, whatever you want. The trick being that they got rid of a lot of cables by introducing a new PCIe-based edge connector, they call it, which looks like a PCI slot, and you basically just push your parts into it.
But it's weird because you still have your motherboard plane, and then you have an L-shaped connector that plugs into it. And then what goes into that connector?
Well, the whole idea is it's modular. You can add whatever you want. So in their concept PC, it has the motherboard at the top. And one of the cool things, it has all these different pins and connectors right in the front of the PC because they have the motherboard come right up to the front.
Right.
Example of integrating it more. But then they have, in their constant PC, they have a daughter card come down that has all kinds of storage capabilities. So you can just hot swap storage in the front. In the back, they have interchangeable input-output, shields. So that basically the I/O shields are different. So you can plug those in and out. So if you're a streamer, you can get one with multiple DisplayPort connections or whatever. If you're a high-end audio person, you can get something with funky audio, all the different connections.
And I like the one, it was for VR, you get multiple USB ports. And it shows a thing that has 15 USB connections in the back. And I was like, okay, even for VR, this is overkill.
Why?
You can never have too many USB ports, man.
I don't know.
But not for VR.
It's nuts. It was 12 USB, normal USB connectors, and then 3 USB-C connectors or something on a horizontal row.
How is that VR though? I guess
just because you need 2 for the Oculus, and I think two more for the Vive, if I remember correctly. Maybe 1 for the Vive.
Okay, that's somebody in marketing going, "This is VR."
Yeah, right. Or just a normal
ports.
person that needs a lot of USB ports.
So I'm looking at the photos on your article, Brad, and did they talk about airflow or there's no room for custom water cooling or anything? I mean,
well, there is a little bit of a gap at the top. So you could theoretically install these custom water coolers. What they're doing is they're, again, integrating it all together. They have built giant heat sinks into the side of the case and stuff like that so that the case itself acts kind of like a heat sink. They partition off the graphics card into its own compartment, not department, to its own compartment. So it's blowing air out the side through those heat sinks and stuff like that.
The picture that I saw also made it look like there was a proprietary power supply. That's the thing that kind of bugged me. It looked like there's a power supply with an edge connector on it.
This whole concept, again, they're putting it out there as a concept, is you can do it all today with parts that are available today, but they need this new edge connector. So it's a little bit different from Project Christine, where Razer's Project Christine was here's these crazy modules, and you just swap them in and out, etc. And this, they're saying, you could do so much more. You just got to rethink how we're connecting the things.
But I'll say this: Project Christine looked a hell of a lot cooler than this thing does.
Yeah.
Well, you don't dig the 80s hi-fi vibe?
No, it just looks like a bad, it looks like bad. I mean, it reminds me of when the Xbox One debuted, and it was just it looks like a VHS player from the 80s.
Are these hot swappable drive bays in the front? Is that what those are?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can just pop them in and out.
Well, I talked to one vendor yesterday, and he was dissing it. He's like, yeah, they went through all this work, all the engineering, so they could basically make a square PC, which you can already make today. So what did they actually achieve?
Well, and I guess my problem with this concept, because I like the idea in theory, but the same problem that Project Christine had, like, who is this actually for? There are not that many people I know that want to build a PC and can't actually build a PC. Like, that's a pretty easy process these days because of how much documentation is online. And because of the proprietary nature, you're expecting it to cost more anyway. And by the time you've paid the premium to buy all these parts that are proprietary, you probably could have just bought a similarly performing PC that was pre-built.
Yeah. I guess for me, go ahead, Brad.
I think a big part of the problem they would have to overcome for this to even start to have success is there's a reason why, the standard, it's a box, it's a motherboard, put your stuff in it, has existed for so long, is because it works so well and there's no vendor lock-in. Everybody's, able to make whatever they want. Case makers can make whatever case they want. Motherboards makers can make whatever motherboards they want. They just standard sizes. Whereas something like this, you need to more tightly integrate the motherboard and the case and all that jazz, and it just feels like they're saying it's open. It's anybody could make stuff like it. It's still a DIY PC, but it feels like it feels like this would benefit like ASUS more than it would benefit someone like EVGA who only makes motherboards or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it constrains the visual aspects of it too. It's like, hey, if you have to always have these pieces, but they can't look different. I mean, that's part of the reason why you want a custom case as well. Is you want it to look the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Not just performance.
And fit into varying spaces and all sorts of stuff that you can't really do with this.
The thing that kills me, though, is if you actually bought it, say they actually get this thing out this year, you go and buy this thing, in 5 years, there's a good chance they probably would have given up if nobody buys it, and you go to upgrade your machine, you could probably upgrade zero. You can't swap the motherboard, the power supply, nothing. You're locked into a box that you just throw away.
That's like that little, what do they call it? Acer Revo, that little machine?
Yeah.
That has the little like Lego blocks that you build it up.
Yeah.
They talked about a big deal last year, and I actually did bring it out, but from what I could tell, they haven't added any extra new blocks to it or anything. So you're basically just stuck with what you bought to begin with the promise of a modular PC, but nothing to actually swap out.
Right, because there's no standards. But it's an interesting thing about those little mini computers. They're sort of just, you throw them away anyway.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because like that's the whole thing about living room PCs. Like, you can't upgrade most of those Steam machines either. So I mean, you can the high end ones, but like the Alienware one and stuff like that.
The ones that are supposed to mirror consoles.
Yeah, exactly. The ones that are like a small size are mostly just throw them away.
Right. Micro towers are that's kind of the funny thing is like people are squeezing like there's a machine back behind us. It's got a Titan X and a Haswell E. It's the size of an Xbox, and you can swap the motherboard. You can swap every single thing in there, all industry standard parts. So why do all this proprietary stuff that you just have to
I think it's cool that they're thinking ahead and thinking of new things, though. I mean, it's cool that they said we're putting this out. We're looking to see what people think about it.
Well, and I would like it if building a PC was less of like building a bomb. It feels like there's always there's always that point where you're like putting RAM into a new motherboard for the first time, and like the motherboard's creaking, and you're like, oh no, is this too much pressure? Am I gonna snap it? And that pops in. And you're like, oh, I'm good. All right, cool. Like this is not the day where I burn out a PC before I post it.
It's pretty rare to blow something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I could see. It would be nice if building a PC was a little more like, hey, I'm just gonna slot these things together. It all works. I don't have to worry about it. I can do this in like 10 minutes.
It's all those easy connections.
Yeah. But I mean, because like I love, for instance, like on the audio side, I love XLR connectors. You just like plug them in, they're 3-pronged, they snap into place. And like that to me is a very simple solution. Anybody can do that, as opposed to like running speaker wire where you're like wrapping it up and then you need to like cut it to length and then wrap it on the, like that's a huge pain in the ass. And that's sort of where we are with PCs nowadays, is like this horrible, like, hey, I'm going to slot all these things together and hope it works.
No, but that's the whole part of it is like, then you can get, what speaker wire did you get? That's not the right speaker wire. You need the GTX speaker wire. Oh, you don't have the green sleeving? You need the green sleeving.
Double shielding.
Check out my shielding on this.
How big is your gauge?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's sort of the appeal of the PCs. You can
absolutely.
You can get really personal
I just think that it would be nice for, especially people that would never build a PC normally. this would be a cool thing if it actually became a standard and people were willing to work with it.
Yeah.
I just
I
don't
mean,
think it's
even-
going to.
I think it's cool they're thinking ahead. I think it's cool. I mean, even if the whole, let's tightly integrate it all doesn't come together, if, 5 years from now, these easy slot and play edge connectors are,
Yeah.
a standard, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like experimentation and thinking.
Yeah, it's really, I will say I'm going to bring up something probably few people have ever heard of, and that is BTX, the BTX form factor. That is like ancient history. So Intel itself, which by the way birthed ATX and most of the motherboard form factors, they tried to kill it with BTX. And there was a rebellion in the industry because it's like everybody's like, we're not going to throw away our cases for this stupid BTX. And Intel tried with all its might to get everybody to build BTX. They got big OEMs, Dell and HP, Gateway, who was surrounded. They built BTX cases. Everybody else flipped the finger at them. And we're still using basically the exact same form factor from like 1992, which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
So what you're saying is we need Apple to build one of these because
It'll be,
Apple
I mean,
doesn't care.
circular and
This
black.
is the Thunderbolt ports all over again.
Yeah.
It won't catch on for 10 years, but 10 years from now, if Apple does it, we'll be using these.
and they'll do it right.
This Asus box is probably about as proprietary as an Apple machine because you can't.
Yeah.
You can't go out and buy a power supply for a Mac Tower or something. You can't go. The only thing you can swap out of an Apple is the RAM and the CPU.
Sometimes.
I can't
Now these
buy
are
one
for
of those.
now.
I can't buy a nice trash can case.
Well,
for
even
my-
like the trash can, you forget about the GPUs. The only thing you can swap out is the CPU. Maybe if you're lucky, if they give you the BIOS for it. But that's it. This isn't that bad. But like even a Mac Tower, like the Mac Pro you have, the great big towers, you couldn't do jack with those things. Everything was so it's pretty close.
Yeah.
That's sort of like every PC person in the world recoils. Like, oh my god, I want to be able to. I want control over it, and that is a problem with this whole Avalon concept. I think so.
If I can't add LED light strips to the inside, I'm not buying it.
Last question, Brad, before we move on. Is this something that you'll be able to get your hands on? Are they sending these out? Or is this just, hey, we're putting it out there?
Computex, a lot of it's real, but in this particular case, they're saying, hey, we're putting this out there. We're looking to see what people think. It's not going to be available for sale anytime soon. It's more testing the waters, putting it out there,
Getting
just
headlines,
inviting
free
conversation.
media.
Yeah, it's under
getting
their
headlines.
ROG brand, right? So it might make an appearance at E3. I would say. All those OEMs tend to have a booth there. So
Sorry, what do you guys think of this? Because Computex, which is an awesome PC show, you see just insane, awesomely modded computers, but it really has turned into that we're going to make something, show it off, get all the free headlines, and then we're. And then
I
that's
disagree.
It. You'll never see
I
the product.
totally disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think this one case, this one
Dr.
computer,
Christine. Yeah,
is something that they're putting it out there as a concept.
Okay.
I think that CES.
yeah, I was gonna say CES is way worse than that.
It's all
CES
vaporware,
is where it's
right?
after the holiday season and where they're just like, we're just going to make this crazy crap up. Just, hopefully get some headlines.
and that's where
Whereas
Project
Computex,
Christine
like
was.
you're seeing stuff like backpack PCs. That I have no doubt some version of that will very well make it on the market. Computex, is where they're showing off stuff you're going to be able to get.
Yeah, I agree because CES is just like whatever dumb thing somebody thought about in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, you basically run through the show floor naked, throwing $1,000 bills. You get your headlines, and that's all you need.
Is that what you do, Gordon?
If I got the $1,000 bills, I would. If you gave me that,
That's how PC World gets the CES coverage it gets. So you
everybody
just run
has
around
their
naked.
price. Everybody has their price. Mine's no one will actually pay me that price. So I would do it. Wouldn't you? I'm just, but it's just kind of.
It's Vegas. Nobody would even look twice.
Yeah, I know nobody would
All right.
care. Or San Francisco.
There's a naked dude with $1,000 bills.